very important job to do. In fact, it might be the most important job in the history of the world. We were called and are united by a common vision, which has now become a command that we cannot ignore. The four of us are here to prevent the apocalypse. Your family has been chosen to make a horrible decision.
Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man, coming to you live once again from beautiful Hawaii here on the island of Oahu, bringing you, yes you, the best movie reviews on the entire island of Oahu. And yes, this is Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man. And well, last night, opening night of the new M. Night Shyamalan movie, Knock at the Cabin. I went in and I saw it, and well, remember our rating scale, shock a thumbs up. It's good to see, I recommend it. Shock a thumbs down. It's junk, I don't recommend it. And for, you know, M. Night Shyamalan's new movie, Knock at the Cabin Door, starring Dave Bautista, I think newcomer Christian Cui, the little girl, a gay couple played by William Ragsdale and Jonathan Groff. Overall, Knock at the Cabin is a shock a thumbs up. Now, let me caveat that by saying that I personally did not like this movie. You know, and I feel a lot of the audience was mixed. There was a fair amount of people in the theater for a Friday night. Not packed in this theater. Not one of the larger theaters either, unfortunately. You know, still Avatar has most of the theaters at the theater, you know, filled up with people still seeing that movie. But Knock at the Cabin is the latest and newest movie out. Fairly large movie that a lot of people were anticipating. So it could actually dethrone Avatar as the #1 movie at the box office, something Megan failed to do. But, you know, Avatar has been around for several weeks now at the movie theater. And, well, I don't think that M. Night Shyamalan will be able to dethrone Avatar. Now, Knock at the Cabin is a $20 million movie made with that budget. Dave Bautista is a fabulous actor in this movie. He does the bulk of the acting in this movie, carries pretty much the film. And, you know, him and Han, there were a lot of flaws with this movie. How can I describe this movie? You've seen the trailer that I put on before this review. And that gets to the meat and bones of it. But I guess, you know, I would say that M. Night Shyamalan in this movie adequately negotiates the line between Joss Whedon's movie Cabin in the Woods combined with that Matthew McConaughey film called Frailty. And if you're not familiar with either of those films, I highly suggest that you look those up on Netflix or streaming or wherever and watch them, as they are very similar to this movie. So we have Dave Bautista leading a group of 3 other people that come upon this couple's vacation in the woods in a cabin. They knock on the cabin door to be asked to let in, and when they are not, they break in and basically hold hostage these two people, and their child, telling them that they must choose to kill one of their members of their family in order to prevent the apocalypse and the end of the world. So right off the bat, I'm feeling that these guys are, since there's 4 of them, Dave Bautista, these 3 other guys, they are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And, that is correct. They even come out and say, we were chosen as the, representing the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, blah, blah, blah. And throughout the movie, each one, besets a plague on the world. Tidal waves. We see Hawaii, getting pounded by some tsunamis. The Oregon coast, etc., followed by a horrible disease ravaging children, a plague, to eventually airplanes falling out of the sky as being one of the last major ones, and then lightning strikes throughout the globe, destroying the world in terrible thunderstorms and lightning storms. Again, Dave Bautista does a fabulous portrayal of his character in this movie as someone, and actually all of the horsemen of the apocalypse basically do good jobs as, people, pushed to the brink, put into very difficult situations by what they say is visions that have prompted them to do such horrible acts, and none of them, well, save one, would normally do something so dreadful as beating, a couple and holding their child hostage. Normally, outside of these crazy events that they have been chosen to do, these visions driving them to the point of having to do this. So they basically are not in control of their own actions, but led, by whatever they believe, their own motivations to do such things. Outside of the norm of their character. And, they stress this several times, despite one of the couples saying that, hey, this is, you have a choice to do this, and you don't have to hold us hostage and make one of us kill one another, blah, blah, blah. So in that respect, I will say that I appreciate M. Night Shyamalan getting right into the story from the very get-go. Within the first 5 minutes, the scene is set, and what you see in the trailer plays out through the entire movie. So you're not waiting a long time. And he builds the relationship of this gay couple through flashbacks and narration, how they adopt their daughter in China, played by Christian Cui, who does a wonderful job. And I look forward to seeing her in much, much more films throughout her career as she ages. And I think M. Night Shyamalan really does a decent job of this relationship with these 2 men and, their marriage, I guess. Pointing out the flaws of one another. One is fairly religious, which, plays a factor, and the other seems to be much more atheist in nature and more tarnished on his outlook of humans in society. Whereas, it's early on that we are shown that this couple, they will stay together through the thick and thin of everything, and their family is what defines them and has made them. And so that's a strong choice. And so right off the bat, it's like, okay, I believe, in this couple and their family with this little girl. And, basically they say it's the two of us forever, and then the third with their daughter later on. So you are really pushed to believe that, they're not going to give in to these guys' Dave Bautista and his group's crazy predictions or desire to have one of them kill one another. Yet slowly through the show, as they witness some of these catastrophes, some which can be explained, but as it goes on, it just becomes so, where the planes begin to fall out of the sky and the lightning strikes. It's just too much for at least the man with religion, a strong religious background, to ignore. And he bravely convinces one of them, his significant other, to end his life in salvation of the world. And I unfortunately agree with the other man who didn't want to do it, saying that, forget the world. What has the world done for us? He's very jaded by having been abused and discriminated against for being, a gay man in, a straight world and, being beaten down by society. And that is one of the choices that they could have chose, that, just let the world perish, and, the three of them would live together for the rest of their days on a, empty earth, apparently. And he chooses that. But, spoilers, the man with his strong religious convictions, opts for society. And more so for the benefit of his daughter having a normal world to grow up in, and his husband to continue on without him. Far-fetched, yes. And throughout this movie, especially with that setup and that premise, I am reminded from a philosophy class that I took back in college during my basic ethics class of, basically there is a thought or a problem was, what ethically would you do if society could be perfect, but all it took was that somewhere in this society, in this perfect world of a society, one individual, one person, one child had to be inhumanely tortured day after day, hour after hour, throughout their life for this world to be perfect, then is it really a perfect world? And that's where Josh Whedon's Cabin in the Woods, very similar to this show, Knock at the Cabin, I think is a little stronger, because spoilers, in that movie, they choose not to kill one another and save the world, which is a very strong moralistically choice. Here, maybe because they have the child, and maybe that's enough to woo them to the path that they take in this decision. But, I just felt like it was the weak way out, and maybe the more dangerous choice that M. Night Shyamalan could have taken, given the world, the society that we currently live in politically in the United States, with the events of like January 6th and those rioters, groups like the Proud Boys, believing themselves, to be right, to oppress others. And for whatever reason, they want to, it's like everything would be perfect if we just got rid of blah, 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 this or that, or if we were all in power, or blah, blah, or the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world saying that my way is right and I believe this certain way only. And, I know that I'm right, and the world would be perfect if I can make it the way that I believe it to be. Despite the violence that I have to do to other members of society throughout the world, just to make it happen. And I feel that a movie like this kind of can be used to justify those extremists' beliefs, nothing short of terrorism, or that we have seen in other Middle Eastern countries. But for some reason, certain political members of Congress, the Senate, and people of influence in the United States seem to have accepted without realizing that they are, what they were against all these years ago. I feel that a movie like this kind of says, that they can point to a movie like this and justify it as, it's like, look, we were right. We were right to capture these people, to make them kill one another, or to kill them, because this will only help the world. We're saving the world by doing these horrendous things to just a small group of individuals, and then things will be so much better. And I know that M. Night Shyamalan is probably, that's probably his point in this, or he wanted to kind of expose that wound of society, but he doesn't really give any explanations or delve into it further, other than, yes, there's this wound on society. And in the way that he makes it so joyous even at the end of this horrible choice, perhaps for the right reasons. Overall, it just seems kind of shoddy that he took that approach in such dangerous times that we live in right now, where people could maybe misconstrue that as saying that, and use it as some type of justification that they are correct in their false beliefs. That's my opinion. That's the only drawback. However, that's the only drawback I feel towards this movie and towards M. Night Shyamalan's. He wants to be edgy with his story and have this ethical conflict. However, he kind of fails at that. In the end, there is no ethical question about it. It just falls to the wayside. And it's never really looked at again. But the acting in this movie by those who participate, especially Dave Bautista, this is his best work ever. And this new coming young girl in the film, Kristen Cui, it is strong enough to promote a Shaka thumbs up, despite the frailings of M. Night Shyamalan's vision in this movie, or perhaps lack of vision at looking at the dangers that he's kind of, giving an okay to in this movie. Maybe he thought about that, maybe he didn't. A lot of times I don't think M. Night Shyamalan really thinks about what he's doing in his movies, just trying to be edgy and do that surprise twist. And in that note, one last spoiler, the surprise twist is there's no surprise twist in this movie. It is as the trailer represents, where you're expecting, it's like, okay, this had to be wrong in some way, and it's like, no, it was perfectly fine. Everything, this needed to happen. And it's like, oh, that just hurts my heart. Whereas this could have been a much better movie. That's where I feel it failed. All right, again, this is Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man, giving Knock at the Cabin overall a Shaka thumbs up, despite some shaky foundations of lack of morals and ethics presented in this movie. Again, unfortunately, in such dangerous times in our society in the United States. All right, mahalo and aloha.